In this session, we'll discuss a $150,000 buyer negotiation blooper. Before we talk about the $150,000 blooper, a little background about some buyer-agent arrangements is in order so that you will know what you may encounter when you hire an agent to represent yourself. It is typical for an agent who is experiencing some success to decide that they don't really want to be bothered showing property to buyers anymore. In many cases, those lead agents hire junior agents to work with buyers, while the lead agent lists homes by concentrating on sellers only. I am not talking here about the broker for the company hiring salespeople for the company. I am talking about a salesperson working for the company hiring their own team, usually starting out by hiring buyer agents. I suppose that there could be many reasons that an agent would need to work for another salesperson in the company as a buyer agent, taking only 50% of the commission and giving the other 50% to the lead agent just to be on the team. Even though this might work out fine for the lead agent, I am at a loss to see how working with a weak agent team member could possibly be helpful to you, the buyer. In our blooper case, the buyer was an agent herself, working for one of the large national real estate chains. The problem began for her when the agent decided to represent herself. Then, to compound matters, the buyer, who was now her own agent, also got a very bad case of the I wants for the house. As a side note, don't be lulled into thinking that something similar couldn't happen to you simply because you're not representing yourself. In our current market, many agents are struggling and may be willing to do whatever it takes to make next month's rent or maybe even last month's rent. It's something to think about when choosing an agent. Anyway, back to our blooper. Because of her case of the I wants and her lack of negotiating skill, the buyer was so enthusiastic about the home and how perfect it would be for her and her entire family that it was clear to the listing agent that she wanted the home at virtually any cost. Well, the first of those costs was $50,000. The seller, who desperately wanted to sell the house to take advantage of a terrific buy on another home, had strategically, with the help of his agent, priced the home at $1,050,000. The intent was to have what's called a front porch, a negotiating chip that could be lost without adversely affecting the deal. In other words, the seller and his agent expected to get a flat $1 million for the home as a maximum, giving up the $50,000 they never expected to get in the first place. The buyer, however, driven by her case of the I wants, offered the full price, backed up by a 20% down payment and a loan pre-approval. At this point, most sellers would chuckle to themselves and the seller would bank the extra $50,000 at close. However, this seller's agent, having seen the buyer's extreme case of the I wants up close, counseled the seller to do something very different. The agent counseled the seller to raise the price. $100,000. The seller was shocked at the suggestion and very concerned that he might lose the $2 million home that he was getting such a great buy on. However, the sticker shock of buying a $2 million home also convinced him that he needed every dime he could get, and so in the end he agreed to the new strategy. The rest of the negotiation, at this point totally under the control of the seller agent, was quick and very expensive for the buyer. The seller's agent called the buyer, leaving a message that the seller wouldn't be able to sell the home at the asking price after all, thanked her for the offer, and suggested that they might be able to do some other transaction together in the indefinite future. The response was swift. In less than half an hour, the buyer called back incredulous, saying, "I gave you a full price offer with 20% down and a 30-day escrow, and you're not even going to counter me back?" The listing agent said, "Well, we didn't think you would want to pay $100,000 more for the..." To which the buyer said, yes, send me a counter. "No, don't bother. I will send you a replacement page 1 to raise the price." The sale closed at $1,150,000, fully $150,000 more than expected. The moral of the story? Be sure you don't have a second stringer or weak team member for your negotiator. It could be expensive for you too. To discuss your own situation, call me, Terry Hunter, at 949-278-1595. That's 949-278-1595. I am a certified real estate negotiator who will get you the best possible price when you're ready to buy. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you in person.